Friday morning, everybody. Thanks very much for joining us this morning. I'm Maria. And good Friday morning, everybody. Thanks very much for joining us this morning. I'm Maria Bartiromo, and it is Friday, June 30th. It is 8 a.m. on the East Coast. House Republicans are ramping up their investigation into decisions surrounding the Hunter Biden tax probe. The Oversight, Judiciary, and Ways and Means Committees all now demanding transcribed interviews from more than a dozen federal officials. This includes U.S. Attorney for Delaware, David Weiss, Assistant U.S. Attorney Leslie Wolf, and U.S. Attorney for D.C., Matthew Graves. I asked New York Congressman Nick Langworthy about this earlier in the program today. Watch.
We better have cooperation first and foremost, because when they rolled out this really sweetheart plea deal on Hunter, it seems like the Justice Department just wanted to tie it up with a bow. Very clear, facts that show that it might very well be the Attorney General himself that lied to Congress. At that point, that we will have an impeachment inquiry.
And joining me right now is Wisconsin Congressman Tom Tiffany. He's a member of the Judiciary and Republican Study Committees. Congressman, thanks very much for being here. What are you getting at here? Where is this all going?
I think where it's headed, Maria, at this point is getting to the inconsistencies. What we're seeing is different stories from the people who are in the field offices, who sometimes have been the whistleblowers that are getting good information to us. And we want people to get their stories straight. Those people that are in the D.C. offices versus those people that are in the field offices that are telling, in some instances, much different stories. Let's wring the inconsistencies out of these stories and get to the truth.
Yeah, and now we see that the White House has been omitting Hunter Biden from the visitor logs since President Biden took office. Why isn't his son in the visitor logs? We understand he's been living there. When pressed by Fox News Digital, a spokesperson pointed to a policy stating that the White House does not release records related to personal guests at the White House or visits that do not involve any official or political business. It's the first time I've heard that law or rule, Congressman.
Maria, the cover-up is always the biggest problem. And it appears that's the direction we're headed at this point, is let's keep information from us in Congress and to the American people. The cover-up is a very bad sign, I believe, for the Biden family as we continue to methodically work our way through this process.
Well, let me get your take, Congressman, on A.G. Garland, because Merrick Garland has said repeatedly that David Weiss, the U.S. attorney, had complete authority to do what he needed to do with the probe into Hunter Biden. And yet David Weiss is saying the opposite, that every time he tried to do investigative steps, do what is typical for any tax probe, that he was stopped. The whistleblower said they were stopped in their investigative efforts. So somebody is lying, is what you all and Kevin McCarthy have been saying. Do you think A.G. Garland perjured himself when he said that the U.S. attorney has full control and authority?
It's certainly possible. And it isn't just Weiss that's saying this, Maria. It's Gary Shapley, who has been on the network news, including Fox News, telling his story. And he's saying these stories do not match up. There was interference from the very highest levels of the Department of Justice.
Wow. Meanwhile, FBI Director Christopher Wray is going to be testifying to your committee, House Judiciary Committee, on July 12th, Congressman. What do you want to get from Christopher Wray at the FBI?
Well, once again, we want to get the story straight and we want to find out what's going on. As released in October of 2020, that's when the public first began to know about Hunter Biden and his family's involvement with issues like this. Well, it turns out it goes back to 2019 when the FBI and the Department of Justice knew about these things. Christopher Wray needs to answer for what is going on in the FBI. But I think more importantly at this point, is the FBI serving as just a Praetorian Guard? Are they protecting the elites in Washington, D.C., rather than serving the American people? Because we've seen so many examples of where the FBI has went after average American people. And those are the questions that I want answered.
So many instances to name. First, they pursued the Russia collusion story on no evidence. Then they ignored any tips about Hillary Clinton influence peddling with her Clinton Foundation. Jim Comey told us that Loretta Lynch, then AG, told him to call the Hillary Clinton investigation a matter, not an investigation. Then they sat on the Hunter Biden laptop while President Trump was getting impeached, even though they knew everything on that laptop pointed to influence peddling with Ukraine and the Biden family. Then they went after soccer moms who did not go along with their narrative in terms of teachings in school for our children. And now this, the attacks on President Trump and the protecting of Joe Biden. What can you tell us that we don't know about any of this?
You know, and add one more in there, Maria, teaming up with the social media companies to deny that information to the American people, especially in the run-up to the 2020 election. It's clearly interference that has been going on at the very top levels of the FBI. And that's what we need to get to. And those are going to be some of the questions, I'm sure, that are going to come out of the Wray hearing on July 12th. Once again, let's get to the bottom of this. I just want to add one other thing, Maria. Our listeners should always remember, while Hunter Biden is at the center of this, or he's part of this, the person at the center of it is President Biden, then Vice President Biden back in 2016, now President Biden. He's at the middle of this. How did Hunter Biden, who's simply a crackhead, get so much influence in America? How did he make so much money, as Gary Shapley has so accurately portrayed? It was trading influence as a result of his father's position. This all leads back to Joe Biden.
Yeah, and the reason that we focus so much on this is because these are national security issues. If communist China has something on Joe Biden, we need to know about it, because there are questions about some of the policies that Joe Biden has put in place around China. For example, I've been talking about the China Initiative. As soon as he walks into the White House in January 2021, he cancels the China Initiative, which was holding American citizens and Chinese citizens to account for stealing intellectual property, surveilling American citizens, and sending all of that back to communist China. So is that what he was paid for, making decisions like that?
You're really wondering about that, but add in the Burisma Holdings getting a sweetheart deal to sit on the board of Burisma, the Ukrainian oil company, and all of a sudden you see Joe Biden turn 2 years ago and say, gosh, everything Ukraine, we're going to send them almost unlimited amounts of money in regards to this Russia-Ukraine conflict. You know, you really wonder what is going on here with our foreign policy. Has it been purchased?
Just stunning, stunning, Congressman. We'll be watching your work. Thanks very much. Tom Tiffany joining us this morning on this developing story. Thank you, sir.